Despite struggling their past couple of games, this Toronto Raptors team has continued to show just how good they are and showed just how much potential they have on the defensive side of the ball. And I can tell you that this team will be a defensive powerhouse in a couple of years with the core of players that they have on this team. This past game against the 76ers showed the exact level of play that the Raptors can be at on the defensive end and why more people need to be talking about just how special this team will one day become. A plethora of different players on this team had to step up in this game in order for the Raptors to get this win, including strong performances from Precious on defense. Scottie had a good game. Gary Trent, as always, picked up a couple of steals. Boucher filled up the stat sheet defensively, and I wanted to give a massive shout out to Svi Mikhailuk, who was absolutely huge as he stepped up late in the game with his defense. All throughout this lineup, since it is still very young, has players that aren't quite there in terms of reaching their full defensive potential, however show flashes of it nonetheless, whether it be individual play or multiple players coming together as a unit to dominate on both ends. Personally, I think that the game that they lost against the Cavs was theirs to win, and the refs ultimately blew that game with terrible calls down the stretch, which could have extended the team's streak to 6 games and maybe even carried that momentum into the games against the Nets and the Celtics. But nonetheless, a loss is still a loss, and there will be moments and stretches like these where the Raptors are humbled playing against strong Eastern Conference teams. However, the least I can do during this time is take a look at some of the takeaways from this team in some of their recent performances. And honestly, the takeaways from these games do a very good job at making the future look even brighter than it already was, as the Toronto Raptors showed out just how strong they are as a team defensively, and even got some praise from one of the greatest scorers of all time in Kevin Durant after the game against the Nets, and I will be going over this team's defensive potential in this video. I also just wanted to mention that only around 6% of the people who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you could please consider subscribing to my channel to ensure that you don't miss any of the weekly Raptors content that I upload, it would be much appreciated. Now, simply just looking at their numbers on defense, you can already see just how good we've been as of late. As of right now, the Toronto Raptors, rank just outside of the top 10 in defensive rating in the league at 11th, have accumulated the most steals in the entire NBA per game. Impressively enough, have given up the 4th least points in the paint. Despite all of the storylines against the size differential the Raptors have against their opponents, and have ultimately given up the 4th least amount of points per game on this season. Summarizing all of these stats, I think it's definitely safe to say that this team is already up there among the top teams in the NBA on defense, and they truly have what it takes to get so much better to eventually become a defensive powerhouse. As I've mentioned in previous videos, we know just how young this team is and how little all of them have actually all played together. So with that being said, I can definitely say that this team has yet again exceeded the expectations surrounding this team and have once again accelerated the development trajectory of what was once previously expected out of them. We all knew this team had the potential, but the fact that they're already putting up very decent numbers is the amazing thing to see. Now, if you look at the players that make up this defense individually, you can definitely just tell how special this unit will one day become by the way it has been built by the front office in terms of their length, defensive instincts, and overall defensive versatility. Starting with the size of this team, the Toronto Raptors are currently trying to create one of the greatest small ball lineups the NBA has ever seen, and we could possibly be looking at this outlook of a roster being the future of the NBA if all goes according to plan for the Raptors. Now, I know this isn't the first time a team has attempted to create a small ball lineup, and it certainly won't be the last, but it's just the way this team is operating things that just isn't as common as you would think. Starting with the height of this roster. Throughout the entirety of this lineup, the tallest player on this team is 6'9", where the Toronto Raptors have multiple guys that fall under this height, but what is above all so fascinating about the direction of where this team is going is that 69% of the players, which is 11 out of the 16 players currently under contract for this team, are 6'7" or taller. And out of the 5 guys that are under 6'7", 3 of the 5 have gotten little to no playing time, and these guys are David Johnson, Malachi Flynn, in. And yes, Goran Dragic, who has been averaging 15 minutes a game this season, but that is because he's only played 4 games so far. One of those he's started, but has recently been benched because of his lackluster efforts on the court. So only 2 of the 16 guys on this team that actually have a significant role, as they are the team's starting point guard and shooting guard, and Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. are under 6'7", which is just absolutely absurd. Now, I know you may be thinking, well, yeah, this team definitely isn't short, but they aren't tall either, because didn't you say that there wasn't a player above 6'9"? And yes, I did say this, and the reason that makes this team so special, and they have been showing it all season long, is because of the combined length this team has in terms of each other's wingspans. You look up and down this roster and you are amazed by the length of this team. Most of the guys have a wingspan well above their listed height, and that has allowed this Raptors team to be so dominant on the defensive side of the ball. Chris Boucher has a 7'4" wingspan, Achua has a 7'1" wingspan, Barnes has a 7'3", Siakam with a 7'3", OG also has a 7'2" wingspan, and what has allowed Gary Trent Jr. to be so dominant on the perimeter is his 6'9" wingspan that he possesses as just a 6'5" guard. As you can see, the Raptors make up for their size on the court by using their length to their advantage. And this is the reason that is so impressive as to why the Toronto Raptors give up so little points in the paint, despite not having a player taller than 6'9". With all of that being said, you can see what the Raptors are currently trying to do on the floor. They are creating the opportunity to go out into a game and have practically everyone able to guard all 5 positions on the court. This will not only cause havoc against opposing teams by simply just not having a weak defender to exploit, but it will also confuse the hell out of teams because of the amount of different defensive strategies that can be drawn up with this amount of versatility. Now, enough of the talk about this defensive capability as a team. Let's dive into the individual efforts that make this young defense so special to watch. This team is full of guys on the defensive end that are built to become all defense caliber players in just a few years if some of them aren't there already. Gary Trent Jr. is the guy that I think has been at this level all season, as he is tied for 2nd in the NBA in steals per game. But not just that, he has also come up with massive game-winning defensive plays this year that has inevitably been a large part to what has allowed this team to go on that massive 5-game win streak. OG Anunoby is one of those guys that has always been among the top defenders on this team, and do I even have to mention Scotty Barnes, who has been showing everybody his potential on the defensive side of the ball, as he has had multiple plays where he's absolutely locked up both Harden and KD in that game against the Nets. Even taking a look at how solid Fred VanVleet has been over the years, you can definitely depend on him to lock up an opposing guard. But if you take a look at some of the newer guys on this team as well, yes, Precious Achiuwa has honestly not had the greatest season so far, but you can't tell me you don't see what his potential can be with his size and athleticism in the Toronto Raptors development system. Banton is also a guy that has the picture-perfect skill set for a future guard on this team, being 6'9", but also being quick enough to lock up opposing guards, and someone who seems to be so incredibly reliable whenever his number is called. And he is extremely underrated in Svi Mykhailiuk, who has shown his defensive potential as well. Overall, if there's one thing that you've learned from this video, is that this Toronto Raptors team can play some defense both individually and as a unit, but the thing I am most excited for is the fact that this core of players on this team is so young and they'll have so much time together to grow. I know it probably sounds like I repeat that phrase many times, but that's only because everything about it is so crucial to understand that what this Toronto Raptors team is doing falls so much deeper than what you may see if you just look at their record, and I want every single one of you to appreciate every moment of it. These players are also paired with a coach that has done a fantastic job in the past couple of years of getting the most out of its players defensively, and has been able to draw up incredible schemes to help us win games and most importantly playoff series. And an example of this would be the box and one scheme he used against the 2019 Golden State Warriors to stop Steph, and inevitably led the Toronto Raptors to its first ever championship ring. Don't be fooled one bit by looking at this team's record this year. In my eyes, they've already shown what I've needed to see, and that's that ultimate potential that can be truly something special one day. Thank you all for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and of course, if you did enjoy, please feel free to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more Raptors content like this that I will be posting multiple times per week. Thank you all, and I hope you all have a great night.